track at the World. We are tied.
Look at this. He's slammed it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Dropping a big leg. Over for the cover. He got it. Unbelievable.
High fly ball into right field. She is gone. Austin, he got it. The starter. Mike Tyson in. Austin is the champion. Stone Cold. Stone Cold. Stone Cold.
Now the 2-2. Well hit down the left field line. Way back in.
Touch them all, Joe. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life.
Oh my God, no! Mankind did it! Nick Foley did it! No, Stone Cold did it! Mankind has achieved his dream and the dream of everyone else who's been told you can't do it! No, you can't do it! You can't do it! No matter what, got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up.
That's our Connection podcast network viewers and listeners. Welcome into WWE War, Wrestling Above Replacement. I am JT. Joining me, as always, is my buddy Marcus. Marcus, how are you?
Good, man. I'm excited to finally talk about a good Royal Rumble. I feel like we haven't had one by my standards. So we'll also be talking about No Way Out as well, which is another big show. So, yeah, we got a lot of big business to take care of tonight. I'm looking forward to getting into it.
When we wrap up, we'll be on the doorstep of the end of another season. The lights are there ahead of us. We'll see how tonight goes, though. And, of course, this is the nerdiest podcast here on the North-South Connection. We're both video and audio simulcast. So if you're watching here on YouTube, thank you. Make sure you subscribe while you're visiting and leave us a comment as well. And we're also available in audio form on any podcast app by searching North-South Connection. Many of our shows are simulcast. So that said, here on this show, we look at wrestling in the world of replacement level. Average match, average crowd, average moment. That's a wash. But as we watch these shows, anything that we feel is better than average gets a plus 1 or 2 or 3. Anything that's below average gets a minus. We net all that out. And we're going to rank all these pay-per-views we're watching. We watch every single pay-per-view in WWE history in a season format. So for this season, we started at Backlash 2001. We're going to end at WrestleMania 18. And we do every season the same way. We jump around randomly from season to season. So it's not a full chronological show, but it's got a little chrono taste to it. As we do that, we're going to rate every match. I give a grade. Marcus gives a grade. We take the average of our score, and then we go plus minus from that 2.5 average match grade. Tally that up. That's our total match grades. Marcus, we then also use other categories to divvy up these shows. What are those categories that we look at?
Yep. Our categories are build, commentary, atmosphere, notable moments and importance, our match grades, card structure, rewatchability, and all-time matches. And for an all-time match to be a plus, it is anything we both agree is 4.25 or above. And for it to be a minus, it is anything we both agree is 0.75 and below.
All right. And so we're going to go through all those categories, talk about all the good and all the bad. But before we do that, we're going to dive into the show proper and get into the match breakdowns. We're talking Royal Rumble 2002 from January 20th, the Phillips Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. 16,106 in attendance. Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler on commentary. We have a Sunday Night Heat match. No, actually, we don't. No Heat match tonight. We're right into the show.
Ooh.
So let's dive in. We have the tag team titles on the line. We have new champions, Marcus. Spike Dudley and Taz defeated the Dudley Boys at Madison Square Garden on a pretty big episode of Raw a couple weeks before this to win the tag team titles, and they defend them here against the Dudleys. So this is a little bit ECW flavor here with Spike feuding with his brothers. And I'll say I was slightly disappointed by this, but they don't give it a lot of time. It's like 5 minutes. I went 2.5, and we have an upset win. Taz and Spike end up retaining. I think a lot of people at the time figured the Dudleys would just win it back. This was like a Marty and 1-2-3 Kid style win for a couple weeks just to pop the big new Raw of the year, of the new year. So, I think pretty big upset coming in, I guess. I mean, the sad part about it is Taz being positioned as an underdog is a little weak. I mean, he was obviously kind of downplayed toward the back end of the invasion, ended up jumping because Austin beat the shit out of him. So like he's just been in a weird position. He's kind of doing announcing as well. So he's kind of in between. Is he active? Is he not active? For all intents and purposes, this is really his last run anyway. Like after this tag title run, he's done in the ring. So I guess one last little piece of gold for Taz in the WWF, but 2.5 for me on this opener.
Yeah, I thought this was just a piece of business to kind of get the titles back on the Dudley Boys at the pay-per-view, but Taz and Spike retain here, and sadly, this is probably the most momentum Taz has had since his debut at Royal Rumble 2000. 2.5 for me, though. Pretty standard and straightforward. Our next match is for the Intercontinental title, as Edge is going to lose the Intercontinental title to William Regal. I went with 3. I felt this was in line with their match from Vengeance. I think this is where like Chad's 10-point scale would probably come in handy because I'd probably have this match a little bit higher. But for our project, the war score is the same.
I did go a little bit higher than Vengeance. I went 3.25 for this. I did like it slightly better. But it's still kind of stuck in the mud a bit, like we talked about. Like the styles clash is still kind of there. Edge is trying to amp things up. Regal's, working him on the mat. This is really now we're heavily in like the brass knuckles era for Regal as well. And he uses them here to win the IC title. So pretty big win for Regal. Take the IC belt. Feels like an IC guy. Edge's run comes to an end. He's had it for a while. So we'll see if we get another match out of these two or if Regal moves on with his belt from here. But that's just fine. But it's not that level up that we've been talking about like we'd like to see from Edge. All right, next up, the women's titles on the line. Trish Stratus defeats Jazz to retain. So Jazz steps in, gets another title match here, like she did Survivor Series. And again, I'd consider this an upset that Trish retained over Jazz. I thought Jazz was going to win a Survivor Series. Thought Jazz was going to win here, but they're sticking with Trish as the stalwart champion right now and trying to continue to, like we talked about last episode, suffer through that short-term pain to get the long-term gain of reestablishing the women's division. I like this much better than Vengeance, which for Jackie, I think it was right on par around with Survivor Series with the 6-pack. So I went 2.75 in this.
This is a show I've seen dozens of times, and every time I'm surprised that Trish retains. I always expect Jazz to win. So 2.75 for me, and we're quickly making up some ground from the the long-term investment with the short-term pain. This was pretty good. Our next match is Ric Flair taking on Vince McMahon. This is a street fight. I went 3.75. Really, really, really good. Not up in like the S tier of like Vince garbage matches.
It's not
this is
far
still
off,
really
though.
good. It's not far off. No, I would have an A tier. Maybe that's a possible project down the line. But this was still really enjoyable. A lot of fun. Flair gets some juice here. I can't remember if Vince gets juice or not, but he is juiced out of his mind. This might be up there with WrestleMania 19 with jacked Vince. I think people forget about how insanely jacked he is here.
Yeah, he's massive.
He looks like Test.
I went 3.75 as well. This is an awesome match. It holds up wonderfully. There's two old guys beating the shit out of each other, screaming at each other. This is another one at the time. I was surprised they didn't hold off till Mania. Like it felt like all the co-owners go to war. Vince always has a big Mania match. Like this felt like it was going to be a WrestleMania battle between these two guys. So just like Vengeance, I was shocked when they kept rolling these matches out on these other cards. But this one is great. They have Flair's kids at ringside. Vince torturing them in front of them, and then Flair beats the shit out of him, and they take the picture and everything. That's really good. Flair gets the win. This was like, the first great Flair match since 1992, or 93, depending on how I feel about Perfect. But it was cool to see Flair in his return in the ring to take on Vince. All right, we have our finale between The Rock and Chris Jericho. Jericho retains yet again, beating The Rock So he ends up beating him, 3 out of 4 times in this feud. So,
Yeah.
I mean, Rock definitely tried to put this guy over. Not all of them were clean. Here I think what he used is the low blow and the tight. So it's probably the cleanish-ish one, I guess. Maybe not the...
No outside interference, though, which is
Yeah,
nice.
so he hits the low blow, throws him into the exposed buckle, and rolls him up and uses the ropes. But that's like heel cheating, though. That's not like help. That's just like him being a smart heel. So I thought this is the strongest they let him look against The Rock. I went 4. Vengeance, I went 4 1/4, and No Mercy, I was at 4.5. I haven't watched a Raw match in a minute, so I'd have to recheck that. But again, this is how I remembered it being, about a quarter star down every time. This was still really good. Their feud is still awesome across the board. When 4 is like your worst match of the series, like that's pretty good. So they really hit on all cylinders. They give him a lot of time here as well. And I think coming out of this one, you feel like Jericho's kind of the guy by this point. I don't think it feels like he's cosplaying. I think he feels like he's the guy. And if he's going to Mania as champion, I think it feels earned by this point.
Yeah, and I really like that, like, the roles are cemented here. Like, we started this journey with, like, the face and lots of tension, and then, like, Jericho shading heel, but, like, also, like, back at No Mercy, like, the crowd's kind of picking Jericho over Rock. But now here at the Rumble, Jericho is firmly cemented as a heel. So with this match, I went 4.5, and it ends their feud with an exclamation point. I was 4 3/4 on their No Mercy match, and I haven't watched the Raw match either in a while. But for our project, this is the second best match of the series for me. And I think I just really liked it. Like, Jericho had a defined heel role. Rock had his defined role. He came out fired up. And I love the super heel finisher sequence of, like, the exposed turnbuckle, rolling up, roll up, the feet on the rope, the low. Like, I love all of it. Thought it was really good. So that takes us to our main event of the evening, and it is the namesake Royal Rumble match. Triple H is going to get his first Royal Rumble victory in his in-ring return. I went 4 1/4, and I feel like I've been a lot harsher on Royal Rumble matches as we've gone along with this project. We finally get an all-timer for me. This one is really, really good, not without fault, but you get a lot of good moments, and the structure is really good. You get the returns, which I like that about the returns.
Yes.
But the surprise is, like, where are they going to happen, because you don't know yet. And they saved, like, the biggest towards the end with Mr. Perfect coming back. It was just a really well put together match. I think the only down period is, like, after Undertaker is eliminated, but that leads to Austin coming in, and sets up his segment of the match. So everything kind of served a purpose. I don't like RVD, who is still, like, our hottest star. He gets jobbed out pretty hard.
We used to talk about this all the time on Now Entering the Rumble, right? Guys get the benefit of 30 or 29, but it ends up hurting their Rumble performance because the match is ending at that point. So unless you're winning from 29 to 30, you're not going to have a good performance because you can't. It's only going to be like 4 or 5 minutes. So him and Booker in this match end up looking a bit like jobbers because of that, because they come in like 29, 30 and they're not going to win. They don't really have long performances. I think RVD is a guy that deserved to come in earlier and have a long run to really show off for sure. I went 4.5. I think it's a top end Rumble. It's maybe one of the most star powered Rumbles they have. Like, I mean, there's so many big names throughout up and down the card in this one. And like you said, you get the big returns. You get Rikishi, you got Goldust, you got Mr. Perfect, Val Venus is back, Triple H is back. So you have a lot of big names coming back into the match. You have the fun spot, the Hurricane with the double choke slam on Austin Triple H. That's a pretty classic. All the Undertaker Maven stuff, the Hardys reuniting. Like, there's so many big moments throughout the match that stand out. Mr. Perfect swatting the gum while he's against the ropes. That's a classic. So, and I like the finish. I like the tease of, you're figuring to get Austin Triple H, but it ends up being an angle. Austin gets thrown out before him, and Triple H wins. I mean, it was one of those ones where it's like Shawn in 96 and Austin 98. It was pretty obvious coming in, but it's probably the right call, so it's fine. Look, we could rebook this era to death. Maybe we'll do some at WrestleMania. We've done it and other stuff. There's a million ways they could have went with Triple H, with Angle, with RVD, and all these guys into Mania. We probably don't need to dive into it yet again here, but I did like this Rumble a lot, 4.5. So that gives us a total war score of 6, which is very strong. Not a lot of matches, but they had some good bang for the buck. And let's get to our categories, Marcus. We'll start with build. We gave 2 points for the pretty legendary return. Triple H and MSG gets that massive pop. It's an awesome moment. A point for Taz and Spike winning the tag titles on Raw. A point for Edge and Regal staying hot with the brass knuckles coming into the feud. A point for Jazz breaking Trisha's hand during a backstage attack. A point for McMahon and Flair having an owner war, the vicious, bloody pipe attack leading to the street fight. A point for Rock and Jericho continuing their rivalry and elevating Jericho. And then a point for the good teases, the returning stars. Like you said, we had the hype of Mr. Perfect and Goldust and Rikishi coming back, etc.
Yep. For our minuses, we have Jackie going from title contender to being presented as like an old legend as a special ref just in 1 month. And then we got the Hardys feud. It's just like all but forgotten pretty much since they've been back. But that is it for minuses. So that gives us a war score of 6 for build.
Yeah, pretty strong. And yeah, the Hardy thing's weird. Like, it's fine. I think they do kind of like when they come in, Jared, oh, it looks like they're back on the same page. Like, I think they realized that this wasn't working, so they both kind of vanished after Vengeance, and then to show up here and they hug with Lita and like they're the Hardys are back together. I think they figure they're better together at this point, but we'll see how long that lasts. Commentary gave a point for the good job selling the brass knucks power of the punch story that plays into the finish. A good point for the focus and debate on if Jericho can back up his talk and keep his title against the big dogs. A point for a good job selling Maven, eliminating Undertaker is a big deal. And then JR tells King when the Godfather makes his return. I don't know if we mentioned him a minute ago when we were naming all the guys. The Godfather's big return. He comes out with the escorts because he's now gone legit. He's no longer a pimp. It's a businessman. Right. And Ross says King can buy the escorts a condo in Fort Myers. Just made me laugh because I think was that where his condo was with the cat? It had to be, right? Because why else would you?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
So that made me laugh. I thought that was a pretty funny line.
Yeah. For our minuses, we got King gawking over Stacy within 30 seconds of the pay-per-view starting. Like, it's so embarrassing. You could not turn on this show and rewatch it around like anybody that you care about. It's so embarrassing to watch. King stroking it to Trish during that match. King sucking up to Vince all over in the Flair Vince match. Chucky constantly by JR, and he says it with such disgust. Chucky. And then you got King stroking it over the escorts as well when Godfather makes his entrance, which we just talked about.
Yeah, it's whatever. All right, so that's Chucky. That drives me nuts during this run. Like, he does it here, he does a little bit No Way Out. It just he calls himself Chucky, and it doesn't even end up being that. This is Billy and Chuck, but like every time he says Chucky, he says it, and it drives me insane. Chucky. So that's a wash. That's a 0 for commentary. But buckle up, buddy, because here we go. This might be a record. We're gonna have to look back for moments. All right. Cocky by Kid Rock is the pay-per-view theme. Is a great song. And they used it for the Ric Flair music video leading up to this too, which is really good. Atlanta as a location was pushed hard. They never had a Rumble. It added to the feel and the vibe of things. A point for the I'm sorry, this is atmosphere, not moments. A point for the Red Hot Dudley's entrance. A point for Edge's Rob Zombie entrance. A point for the big pop for Trisha's win. A point for the big pop for Flair. A point for the crowd being massively into Vince and Flair. A point for the big pop for The Rock. A point for Chris Jericho's Rockstar entrance as champion. A point for the crowd being all in during Rock and Jericho. They go nuts at the end of that match. A point for Goldust's old school entrance, bringing back the old look and feel. A point for the crowd being super engaged with every countdown and pop for the Rumble entrance. A point for the big pop for the Hardy reunion and jumping the Undertaker. A pump for the crowd going nuts when Maven knocks Undertaker out of the ring. A point for the monster pop for Triple H, who felt like the biggest star of the match. So that's a lot of atmosphere right there. But the crowd was awesome on this show.
Yeah, well earned. Atlanta finally got a pay-per-view. I don't know if this is their first one ever, first one in a long time for WWF, and they delivered. For our minus, we only have one, and that is no reaction for the Diamond Cutter in Atlanta.
It's Atlanta. What are we doing? It was silence when he hit this fucking move. This is
dead silence, dead and gone.
That was sad. But that is a plus 14 for atmosphere, Marcus. We got to look back. That might have been. That's got to be up there as one of our peak ones. All right, let's get to moments. A point for the Taz mission rebuilt as a deadly tap. Good on them. A point for Regal winning the IC title. A point for Trish beating Jazz clean. building a resume. A point for the return of Mr. Perfect. A point for the return of Goldust. A point for Val Venus going back to being a porn star instead of the right to censor. A point for the Godfather coming back as not from being the good father. He's gone legit. A point for the Hardys and Lita reuniting. 2 points for Maven eliminating Undertaker. That's a pretty memorable moment. We'll count Maven in the debuts. We usually just go max of 3, so I'm gonna just add that over the. Well, actually, that's a debut, not a return. All right, point. Point for Triple H winning the Royal Rumble, and a point for Mr. Perfect's legendary gum swat. He's against the ropes, about to be eliminated. He spits the gum and swats into the crowd. Just an awesome
all-time moment. Let's see if we can weigh this out with some minuses. We got Jericho still needing help to cheat and win with all the bells and whistles attached to it. It feels like he needs a legit win on his own strength at some point. We got the Big Boss Man's final WWF pay-per-view appearance. Vanishes very quietly and then passes away just 2 years later, like a shockingly young age. He was only in his early mid-30s,
I think. Yeah. 40s.
Man.
I think,
yeah. RVD and Booker get great draws towards the end of the Rumble, but weak showings overall. They could have really used a strong outing again. Like, you could have put RVD earlier. You could have put Booker in there when Austin makes his entrance and kind of have.
They don't really blow that feud off. We had the cool supermarket fight, and they never went anywhere. Even though Bossman does leave soon, we do get the dream team of Team 91, as I call them. Bossman and Perfect team up a little bit on TV.
Oh yeah.
Following the show, so I got to see them live in Providence instead of Raw in February. It's the highlight for me. Team 91 coming together. So that's a +10 for moments. A big score. 6 for match grades. Card structure, we give a point for starting hot with the Dudleys and Stacy's banger entrance. Stacy, we didn't talk about her being added to the Dudley package, but it's a great. I mean, it's an iconic look. The camo mini skirt, the top, the glasses, like just all time diva hachi-machi look. And she really added a lot to the Dudleys actually overall. Like, I think her presence was a big one. So that looked good. And felt good. His card structure. A point for the stacked undercard, just all title matches and the owner fight. So no messing around here. And a point for having Goldust be number 2 and getting his full entrance was like a pretty sharp idea. Like, why not roll out the carpet? And then a point for the star power to finish the Rumble. They got all the big names at the end, except for like Undertaker. It's like really the only one that's not in there to finish it off.
Yeah, the Duchess of Dudleyville might be a top 1 all time. High praise. For our minuses here for the card structure, we've got a slow start to the Rumble since we're saving a lot of that star power. It takes a little while to get warmed up and get going there. It's a Greg Valentine Rumble, and then poor DDP getting thrown out off camera during Godfather's entrance. So that gives us a 2 for card structure.
Yeah, Godfather was in a full friggin' Vegas stage show. Wow, DDP just gets thrown out quietly. Kind of weak for sure. I will say this: the Duchess of Dudley's is the only time I can get into the Wizards of the Wicked Wood. The name we started the season with. All right, rewatchability. A point for Bloody Vince screaming and tapping out. So, like you said earlier, he did bleed, and he's just in the figure 4 trapped. The what promo? The what is crazy during this time period. It gets old real fast, but this is kind of the peak. A point for the rock bottom through the announce table, and the buzz from the crowd with it was awesome looking. A point for Undertaker destroying everyone, Maven eliminating him, and Taker beating the shit out of him around the concourse. All very watchable. Scotty 2 Hottie dancing right into an Undertaker soup bone was great. Mr. Perfect's gum swat. Hurricane's double choke slam attempt on Triple H and Austin. RVD nailing an awesome frog splash across the whole ring on his entrance. And that's it. So that's the positives for rewatchability. What do you got for the negatives?
For the negatives, we have What a Mania as well, depending on how you trend on What a Mania. I trend high. I love What a Mania, except when it's blended with some xenophobia. We got Sean's terrible Texas flag button down tucked into his jeans at WWF New York.
Oh, God, brutal.
Oh, terrible look. And then Undertaker murdering Maven with a gross chair shot.
Brutal. They just didn't need that. That was one too much.
Yeah.
He really scrambled his brains. So that's a +5 for rewatchability. We have one all-time match. That is the Royal Rumble match itself, +1. And Marcus, roll out the carpet, buddy, because we have a new king in town. Royal Rumble 2002 with a total score of 44.
The World Wrestling Federation for over 50.
I didn't realize
The revolutionary force in sports entertainment.
Our new king. I guess we'll leave the rap part in. Anyway.
PTSD of 1995 Raw.
44 points.
All right, Mabel.
Samuel Vega.
King Mabel.
44 is that is a number, buddy. That is a number.
That's.
Did you expect this coming in?
I didn't. I thought it'd be a top 5 show. Just because it's got a really good rumble. The atmosphere is off the charts. All the matches hit. Lots of moments, but
the moments carry it and the star power. Like that's crazy.
I did not expect a new all-time show for us.
It might be our forever king, buddy. It might be our forever king. At 44, that's a big number.
We still got some heavy hitters left to enter, but this is. I think it's going to hold for a while. With what we got coming up next season, I don't see anything taking this one down for at least a couple seasons.
All right, so that's 44. Our second place show, SummerSlam 01 with 39. So I mean, that's a 5-point jump over our previous number 1. So pretty wild. It's always tough to come off the big one down to the next one, but here we are. We're gonna dig into No Way Out 2002. We'll see if this can keep the momentum going. And this is a pretty famous pay-per-view, of course, as the big return of the New World Order, or debut, I should say. February 17th, 2002, from the Bradley Center in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 15,291 in attendance. Jim Ross, Jerry Lawler, and commentary. We had one Sunday Night Heat match. DDP defeats the Big Boss Man by DQ. So there you go. European title was on the line in that one. DDP retained.
Is that a 3-minute match too?
Yeah, it was 3:19, buddy.
Love it.
All right. Sets us our opener, and that is a tag team turmoil match as the APA last eliminate Billy and Chuck to win this and become the number 1 contenders to the tag team titles of WrestleMania. We have Scotty, Too Hotty, and Albert. We had Christian and Lance Storm. We had the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys, Billy and Chuck, and the APA. So pretty much the entire tag division outside of Spike and Taz, who are our champions still at this point, holding those belts. I thought for sure Billy and Chuck were going to win this match at the time. It seemed like they were setting up for that. So it was really weird when they didn't, and the Dudleys did. I remember thinking, and the APA did, who felt very washed, like just odd choice at that point to have them go over, but we'll see where it leads. That said, as a match, I thought it was pretty good. I went 3.25. Like everyone in there can kind of go, and the excitement was there, especially the Hardys and Dudleys. We keep talking about it comes back to them, but they're still super over, so the energy helps.
Yeah, and the APA, they're so intense when they want to dial it up, and they haven't been overexposed because a lot of the focus was on the 3 major tag teams. So whenever they do get heated up, I feel like it's good leftovers. I went 3.25 as well. Doing this project, I think I realized that Tag Team Turmoil is one of my favorite gimmick matches WWF does. So I really enjoyed this. Chucky. Our next match is a singles contest against Rob Van Dam and Goldust. I went 3.25. This was a really solid match, I thought, just to kind of keep Van Dam entertained in between Rumble and WrestleMania, a little TV program for him to do, but also kind of have him work the WWE style, which if you're looking for a show where where does this really begin? I think you can kind of tell it's here. A lot of the matches kind of have the same beats, the same flow, the same structure. But Van Dam was able to fit in pretty well without any of the hardcore stuff. So 3.25 for me.
Yeah, I went 3. This is a sneaky stiff match. They hit each other pretty hard all through this. I remember at the time feeling I felt like such a waste of RVD. I know Goldust is cool. He's back. I guess they were semi-pushing him. The build is pretty good where he's teasing a rising star he's talking about, and then he reveals that it's RVD. So it's fine. I guess if you look at Goldust in this time as maybe a little bit up the card, it's a fine, like you said, it's a fine use. They're obviously priming RVD for a big match at Mania. So why not have him get a solid win on pay-per-view to set that up? So I don't know who else he could have fought here. So it's probably fine. All right, tag team titles on the line in our next match. Taz and Spike Dudley defeat Booker T and Test to retain. Booker T and Test were a fun little team. I like them together. They had a good look. They teamed a little bit during the invasion. They kind of run it back here. Spike and Taz, though, are the underdogs who are no longer underdogs in this run. Like, they're just becoming the champions now. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but they keep winning and they keep rolling with them. So we'll see if they make it to Mania. But as of now, they're still rolling. I went 2 3/4. This was fine. Nothing to write home about, though.
Yeah, I would have thought that like with the APA winning would get to Booker T and Test for WrestleMania.
Yeah, that would have been fine.
Yeah, not the case here. 2.5 for me. Excuse me. As we get to our Intercontinental title match, as it is the final match in the series, as Edge takes on Regal. Regal is going to retain the Intercontinental title, and this was brass knuckles on a pole. What did I have this at? 2 and 2.75 for me. So the least of their matches so far. Yeah, this was like diminishing returns. By the end, I was just ready to be done with them.
I went 3 1/4, so I had it on par with their last match. But yeah, it didn't elevate Edge like we thought it would. The feud held up in my mind as I thought it did. It seemed a little bit styles clashy. They didn't click. They didn't mesh. They had 3 cracks at it. Never really worked. It was meant to probably be a series to really elevate Edge as a worker. But in the end, he ends up losing the IC title, losing 2 straight. Regal leaves as champion, and Edge doesn't feel like he went up a level. We'll get another feud coming in a couple months that they'll try and do the same thing for Edge, and that one goes a little bit better. But you came out of this one thinking, oh, maybe Regal's not what he had. Maybe his fastball's dipping a little bit. But we'll see what he's got cooking next. So 3 1/4 for me. Up next, we have The Rock taking on The Undertaker. The Rock wins. This is solid with 3.5. I actually liked it better than I expected to. I think historically these guys don't have a lot of chemistry. They've had a couple of matches in the past that just did not seem to mesh, but this one had a little bit more structure and focus around it. I like the story with the lead pipe. It's a good use of both these guys that kind of have nothing to do in this interim. Undertaker's kind of on the doorstep of getting ready to torture Ric Flair. Rock is, looking for something to hold him over till Mania, which we know what's coming for him the next night after this. So I went, 17.5 minutes. So they give him a lot of time. This could have stunk for a 17-minute match, but these guys, the reinvigorated Undertaker really clicked here with The Rock.
Yeah, this is my dude's Rock match of the night. I went 3.75. When you have an embarrassment of riches with star power, like this is the perfect angle to do with these two guys. They made it about respect and, Rock not giving it to Undertaker or having lost respect for Undertaker with everything he's done in the last 2 months. So this is really good. And getting like Flair and Vince and the pipe and the ref bump, like everything just clicked. Yeah, so I thought this was just a showcase of like 2 pros going out there and doing their thing at a super high level, and not even in a main event setting. I mean, they're third from the top here, so with the triple main event. So that takes us to the second of our 3 main events, and that is Triple H taking on Kurt Angle. We get to see Triple H for the first time in a long time this season, as he has returned from the quadricep tear in a singles match, taking on Angle. I went 3. Something was missing for me. I don't know if it's the obvious slower pace that Triple H is working, if it was all the stuff with Steph, if it's Angle suddenly kind of being treated like a joke, where he was like so intense this season,
right,
and looked like the most dangerous man on earth. So yeah, 3 for me. I didn't love this, but it's not bad either.
I went 3.5. I liked it. It was better than I thought it was going to be going back to do this rewatch. Because I know in the past they've had so many matches, and I feel like the chemistry didn't quite click. Similar to Rock and Undertaker, like I thought their match was always good, not great, but I liked this one a lot. The Stephanie stuff was fine. They do the typical February swerve where the guy you assume is going into Mania with the title shot loses. So Angle, at this point right now, we're getting Angle heading to Mania to either face Austin again or Jericho. So you figure some more shenanigans will come in at some point with Triple H. But for now, anyway, Kurt Angle is our number 1 contender. Main event time is a rematch from Vengeance. Steve Austin challenging Chris Jericho. They give him 21 minutes. I never liked this match. I guess I liked it a little better than last couple of times. I went 3.5. But I just feel like these guys, A, never really clicked. And B, Austin was like, the frustration for him was starting to seep in. You could tell like he felt maybe a little stagnant again with his character, unsure where he's going for Mania. He's clearly going to be like behind Triple H now as a top face, and The Rock probably. This is what I was saying earlier. When you look at the heel side of what we got cooking, we got Jericho, kind of strong. Angle, kind of strong, but not really. Like a heel Austin heading into Mania here, as champion. If you're not going to do unification, if you have Austin win in December and you do Triple H Austin to pay off the 2-man power trip with Triple H winning the belt, or Triple H Austin not for the title, but blow up with the power trip on the flip side that you were going to do earlier in the year, that speaks a lot better than what we get here. And I'm really not trying to backtalk where I would have stood on this in 2001, because if like Jericho didn't win that belt and it was Austin Triple H, like I think the world might have melted anyway, like that they're not pushing those guys. So I get it. Looking back, I think you can make an argument Chris Jericho benefits if he loses the belt at the show and doesn't make it to Mania. So even if Austin doesn't hold it from Vengeance, if he wins it back here and defends against Triple H at Mania and let Jericho fight like RVD or do something else, like I think that would have been better for him than what he ends up in. So I think I would have had Austin win here and defend against Triple H. And they did that the year before. Rock beat Angle at No Way Out and defended against Austin. Like he didn't need to have a long run to get to Triple H.
I think you can even keep everything the same. And if I'll give my match grade here, I went 3.5, on par with the Vengeance match. But I think if Austin, obviously the what stuff is going to start turning him face a little bit, but if he stays kind of in that gray area where he's attacking heels and faces, and he doesn't have one solid allegiance, you get to this match, you have Austin win, and then maybe the next night the NWO costs Austin the title. Well, now Austin's now a babyface, and now he's going after the NWO, and suddenly that match, whether it's going to be against Scott Hall or Kevin Nash, whatever it is, and then like the NWO is also wreaking havoc. So like if you do that, now that match at WrestleMania has like higher stakes, and now you have Austin as a face, and you can still iron out the main event picture. But
yeah, it just feels like the power trip deserved an ending.
Yeah.
But I will say the risk there, which I get, is Triple H and Austin splitting pops. So like unless you really keep him Austin over as a heel in these 3 months, like they're going to be splitting pops, and it's going to be tough. You're not going to get the pure reaction. The one thing with Jericho that they had was they made him such a milquetoast bitch, that like Triple H was clearly the favorite at WrestleMania because Jericho was just a pansy weasel heel.
So the other thing, I didn't talk about this when we talked about the Rumble, but when it's down to Triple H and Austin, in like that halfway portion of the Rumble or whatever, you can tell Austin's playing ball with like everybody throughout the match and even like towards the end of the match. But like with Triple H, there seems to be a tension there, and it's not that Austin's unprofessional by any stretch. He's very giving to like everybody in that match, and then when it comes to Triple H, it's kind of like two bulls clashing, and I don't two bulls clash. It just I just maybe Austin
where
didn't
things
want
are
to play
headed.
ball.
I mean, we know where they're headed, and I think this starting here with him. I think his frustration looking, we remember like Wrestling with Shadows, right? When Brett talked about this, like, all right, you turned me heel, now Sean's taking my heat. I was a face, I'm behind on it. Like, so it's like with Austin, it's like, you turned me back face, and now I'm your number 3 face behind The Rock and behind Triple H. So it's like, what are we doing? And the RVD is on the rise too, quickly, So all of a sudden it's getting crowded on the face side of the hall. And Hogan's about to be a face of the month too. Yeah. So it's like Flair is up there. Like, so like there's a lot of faces right now.
It's heavy.
The one thing I hate too, we didn't talk about it. The show started with the NWO. We'll talk about that in a second. But they come out here and attack at the end. And I hate, it's actually a pretty famous place to be podcast episode. We talked about this, me and Scott. Like, it's like the NWO is like the Three Stooges as Austin's like slapping him around and stuff. And like, it just made them look like goofs out of the gate. They end up overwhelming him and laying him out, but Austin fights them off for far too long. Like they're bouncing around, bumping into each other. Like it just made them look like goofs, like goofy foot soldiers instead of the dominant heels. Like they should have came out and just completely laid waste.
Yeah. From like JR's podcast, from Jericho's books, from like all accounts, it seemed like the roster was very uneasy with the NWO coming in. Yeah. And if that's the case, they should have just either held off, or everybody needs to play ball, and the NWO is going to come in and they're going to look dominant. And guess what? It's a fake TV show.
Right.
Like, it's okay. it felt like, when they bring in people and they have to lose on like house shows first, like it felt like we were watching that live with like the NWO, like being made to look like goofs by Austin backstage and
Yeah.
Rock, and then here at the end getting people like, meh, meh. Yeah, just it took all the steam out of them.
Yeah. No, I agree. They didn't make them look super strong on this night. And even right up until the intro where they're doing like the fake um sanctimonious stuff.
Oh yeah, that Nitro promo, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. Where they're like, oh, we're just here to be fans and friends. Like, everyone hates us, blah, blah, blah. It's like, come on. Come on. Like, I don't know. Like, it was obviously disingenuous. It was just everyone was like ready to get into the angle, and then they're out there doing that. This felt weird.
Yeah.
All right. So that's a total match score of 5 1/4. So pretty good. Let's get to our categories. Build, we gave a point for Billy and Chucky becoming official, developing their gimmick. They got a new theme song. Pretty iconic theme song. A point for the return of the creepy Goldust vignettes targeting Rob Van Dam. A point for Spike and Taz becoming legitimized as champions. A point for Undertaker continuing to look for respect and brutally attacking The Rock after he mocks Maven, eliminating him. Rock helps Maven win the hardcore title. So a lot going on in that feud. A point for the good continuation of the rubber match of Edge and Regal with the Nux coming in as a stip. A point for the good long-term history baked into Triple H, Angle, and Stephanie. And a point for Austin staying true to his year-long character. He's obsessed with the WWF title. It's the one thing he stayed true to ever since No Way Out 01 is that he is obsessed with the world title and he'll do whatever it takes to get it back.
Yeah. Rock and Maven was like the mega powers for light skinned brothers. Amazing union there. For the minuses, we've got Vince wanting to kill the WWF with a lethal dose of poison. Weird approach to do it, especially coming out of the invasion again. Flair makes lazy tag team turmoil for the WrestleMania title shot. We've got Triple H's main rival becoming Stephanie, despite being in the world title picture. It overshadows Angle's chase for the title as well, or title shot. And then we got the fake pregnancy stuff, which just gets like worse and worse as time goes on.
All right, so that is a 4 for build. Commentary, I thought Jaron King did a good job establishing what the NWO was about in the open, what they could do, why everyone's nervous. A point for JR saying the Taz and Spike are the smallest tag team champions ever. Kind of cool little fun fact. And a point for JR putting over Austin as the greatest world champion ever. I think that was a good staying true.
I would have thought that like Marty and Kid were smaller, but I mean, if you're going by height, I guess not.
Yeah, maybe that's what he's going by. I mean, yeah. Spike, you think he's probably lighter than the Kid was at that point? Because Kid was taller.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. For our minuses for commentary, we've got King perving on wanting to measure Stacy's legs. We got King saying his favorite movie line is about a teenager putting a flute inside herself from American Pie. We went -2 there.
Well, I mean, this guy's got a reputation of like lusting after minors in a creepy way, and he's like, "Oh, that's my favorite movie," where she does that thing with the instrument. It's like, what? She's like 17 in that fucking movie. Like, what are we doing?
Even by like 2002, we're already talking about like a dated reference with the first American Pie, 3 years removed. I'm not done with King here as he's hammering things into the ground about just like taking the effectiveness away all night, talking about the power of the punch, power of the punch, power of the punch.
It's as usual, this ramming shit down to the ground, trying to annoy JR. He sucks. This is the most glaring time where you get it, where you're watching Heyman, seeing what that role could be, and then you're back to this fucking slop.
Yeah, I can't help but to think like how much better things would be with Heyman on commentary.
And Taz is coming at least, like as soon as his tag title run, he's already been doing commentary anyway in 01, but he really steps up in 02, so like gives us something at least as you go through 02. So it's a -1 on commentary. Atmosphere, we gave a 2 for the pop and engagement with the NWO. The crowd was really into it. A point for the pop for the Hardys' return. They reunited at the Rumble, but then they were off again until here. So a point for the crowd being locked into RVD the whole time. A point for Taker's roll-in entrance, still pretty hot despite being a heel. A point for the crowd going wild when Vince shows up and gets destroyed by The Rock. That was a fun moment. A point for the Triple H entrance. A point for the crowd going nuts with the what chance and being in on Austin. And a point for the trucked theme entrance set, which was kind of cool.
Yeah. We have no minuses for the atmosphere. The Bradley Center was rocking on this night.
A fun little forgotten crowd. So that's a +8 for atmosphere. Notable moments, we gave a point for the NWO. making their debut with the Hall and Nash returning. So we gave that 3. And then we give Hogan's return 3. First pay-per-view after 9 years. So I think those 3 together, factoring the NWO, is worth a 6er for that.
Yeah.
When you consider the legacy of all those guys. A point for Undertaker and Flair feud kicking off and escalating. A point for Kurt Angle winning the WrestleMania title shot. A point for Rock and Hogan starting their feud. We'll talk about that in a second. And a point for the NWO attacking Austin and painting him.
For our minuses, we have the APA winning the title shot for WrestleMania over Billy and Chucky. The Rock pants in the NWO and Austin beating them up just makes them feel and look like goofs, like we talked about. We got the ref costing Test the match, kind of silly, despite playing into the immunity angle. Just like they're just playing way below the potential of what the immunity.
Well, yeah, it's like Test is bullying the ref because you can't follow me, and then the ref pushes them. That's stupid. All right, so that's a +7. So pretty good scores here. 5.25 for match grades. For card structure, we give a point for starting hot with the NWO. It's what everyone wanted to see. And then a point for stacking the top 3 matches and closing out the NWO. Just really strong card progression all night.
Yeah. For our minuses, we've got the Dudleys versus the Hardys. Once again, we got Austin has the NWO stooging around for him instead of looking like a strong unit on night 1. We got no women's match as they were progressing the division and brought the title back. So that felt like a little bit of a step back.
All right, so it's a -1 for card structure. Let's get to rewatchability. The 3D on Jeff Hardy on the floor. We get the nasty clothesline from Hell on Billy. And a little nod to some PTB history. This is where JR says, "For the love of clotheslines." And that is the drop you hear in the open to clotheslines and headlines. We have Regal's great double underhook powerbomb on the floor. That was nasty. A point for shredded and just loaded Mr. Perfect at WWF New York. He says, even the rats are ugly here. I think it was meant to be like the rats in New York, but no one Kurt heading. He meant the rats at WWF New York. Just he's fucking hammered on that segment. And then a point for an all-time moment, and that is the New World Order. They meet Austin backstage, and Austin offers him a beer. That one was fine. But the all-timer.
Hey, it's The Rock. Come on, guys. Hey, wow, it's the people's champ. I'm a bull. Hey, this is my son's favorite wrestler. Really? Hey, how about a shot? Come on. Okay, I'll take it. Picture with The Rock. Yes, sir. For your son. Yeah. No problem. Here's Matt. Okay, you guys get in. Ready? All right, that's a good one. So much for the people's taste. What'd you just say? No. Doesn't matter what you just said. See, you shouldn't have said that. Rock was being a man, no problem. Picture for your son, no problem. Rock, I'll tell you what you could do with that camera. You, Chico, Razor Ramon. You take that camera, you shine it up real nice. And then what you do, you give it to your big buddy. Big Daddy Cool, Diesel. You turn it sideways, and then you give it to him. Give it to Hogan. Hogan, you take that camera. It's already shined up. Turn sideways. Eat your vitamins. Say your prayers and stick it straight up all your candy asses.
I've been laughing for 21 years at that fucking honking noise. It's like amazing. His face when he does it, but the way he gets the horn sound is... He couldn't have nailed that any better than they did. It's like so demeaning.
It's like the comedy law of threes too. The 3 honks is perfect.
It was so funny. I mean, yes, it makes the NWO kind of look goofy, which whatever, but it's so fucking funny. It's so good. Like, yeah, good stuff. All right, so what do you got for the negatives on rewatchability?
So we got that weird promo by the NWO to open the show, talking about being good guys and we're a bunch of marks. And Hogan say, "God bless Vince McMahon in America." It felt like a promo that would have been done at like the spring break nitros. Like everybody's loaded, out of control. This is not. It
shouldn't have been their return. Like they should have been fucking assholes. You know what I mean? Instead, like they're doing this fake sincerity stuff.
Yeah. So -1 there. We got Hall making beer and drinking jokes as well during the promo. That wasn't great. Austin pretty much destroying Jericho and getting the visual pin and only losing because of the NWO. And Jericho just feels less and less legit week by week, which is not what we needed with him heading into WrestleMania as our champion.
No, definitely not. It was That's why I think he should have just lost, honestly, and just like worked on rebuilding him and giving something else, because at least it would have stopped the bleeding here instead of the next month of, dead dogs and everything else that he's got going on. And Stephanie's bitch boy. All right, so that's a 2 for rewatchability. We had no all-time matches either way, and that gives us Marcus a total score of 24.25. So a pretty strong outing. It puts it at 23rd all-time. So top 24 finish. Top 25 finish as of now, right above TLC 2015, right below WrestleMania 32. Only a point and a half below King of the Ring 01, which I never would have
Wow.
thought coming in. But we know King of the Ring got killed by DDP and Undertaker. That really destroyed that show. So this was, I think it's a fine show. I think it overproduced a little bit based on atmosphere being so good. I don't think we expected that to be as hot as it was. And the moments, there's like a lot of moments. The NWO is worth 6 alone coming back. So yeah, there's some negatives to them as well. But it's pretty much this show without the NWO on either side, I think is more in that like Bad Blood 04, like, that like tens where it's like nothing happening kind of show. But the NWO really drive this on both ends. It's some big positive moments, but then some negative stuff as well.
Yeah, and once again, a really good atmosphere. Nothing to take away in the atmosphere, so that really helped too.
All right, so that'll do it for us. No changes to our top 10, so I don't think we need to go over that again.
We do have a change because we got our Rumble. Yeah.
Jesus, it's been a long night, buddy. All right, let's run it through. Number 10 show is we have 3 shows tied for 10th, actually. It's Money in the Bank 2011, Judgment Day 2001, and Survivor Series 2001, all tied at 28.75. That's the order we have them in based on the tiebreak.
All right. Number 9, we have Backlash 2001 with a 29.25.
Number 8 is Royal Rumble 2016 at 32.
WrestleMania 21 at 33.5.
SummerSlam 2015 at 35.25.
The Royal Rumble 2005 with a 36.5.
Tied for third, we got 2 shows. SummerSlam 1999 at 38.25.
And then we have SummerSlam 1992 with the tiebreaker being Mr. Hitman and the British Bulldog.
Our second best show of all time, SummerSlam 2001 with 39 points.
And a brand new king atop the leaderboard, number 1, Royal Rumble 2002 with a war of 44. So by far and away our number 1 show that we've done on this project so far.
And to give you the full spread, our 91st and last ranked show, Over the Limit 2011, is at -9. So pretty good, gap there. But what, 52-ish, 53-ish points between the two of those. So there you go. All right, that'll do it. We're out of here. We'll be back in 2 weeks. We're going to wrap this season up. Talk WrestleMania 18. We'll do some awards. And a month from today, we'll be kicking off another season here on WWE War. Until then, continue to live your life above replacement level. Check out everything we have to offer at the North-South Connection. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.